Because today we're presenting for you our Doctor Who Meets the Time Lords deck here on the Jolly Scarecrows channel. So the idea is that we're going to take bits of pop culture and try and implement them to a deck. And we thought rather than be, well, this is actually a fairly lazy version of it, to be honest, because really I'm presenting a Time Lord deck which just about features what I think is more of a Doctor, which is the Last Warrior from Another Planet. If you don't know what this card prevents either player from summoning when it's on the field. So hopefully the idea is that you get it out and you're forcing your opponent to kind of set everything, and eventually they won't be able to use the monster effects. And in between that time, we have all of the other Time Lords, the Master, the various runs that have now been ruined by Chibnall. What are those Time Lords, and how does the deck operate? So basically, the Time Lords are all kind of similar in that you can normal summon them without tributing, and if you've got no monsters on the field, they don't take any battle damage. They have some effect which activates at the end of the battle phase if they've battled, and they can't be destroyed, and you don't take damage. Like, wow, what's the catch? Well, the catch is that they go back to the deck at the end of the turn, or at the start of your standby phase. So they're a bit of a pain sometimes. You can lose momentum with them, and they're a pain to play against. And really, what you're trying to look to do is use this trap Infinite Light. So Infinite Light lets you just special summon Time Lords at will, and at that point, and they can't be targeted. And so at this point, you're just like far too overpowered. So how do you get Infinite Light? Well, you need to use 3 copies of this, the Empty Machine, and so this lets you either discard a level 10 or add a copy of Infinite Emptiness from your deck to the field. My recommendation here is that you actually do discard 2 level 10s if you can, so 2 Time Lords, because that way you're able to use both the effects of Empty Machine and Infinite Machine. So even though it might take an extra turn to set up, actually Time Lords very rarely go to the graveyard, in my experience, or at least you want to be able to force that to happen, because otherwise they're not really getting there unless you even things like your own torrentials, your own dark holes, they're not going to be able to get Time Lords into the graveyard, and sometimes you can be stuck with an Infinite Machine, which you kind of don't really want. Right, so onto the Time Lords themselves. The key card is actually not the Time Lord, it's the Time Maiden. So Time Maiden, basically, it's an incredible kind of floater in this deck. So you can special summon it to act as a tribute for a Time Lord. You can then add a Time Lord from the deck to your hand. If you tribute it straight off, and then obviously you can normal summon that Time Lord because you won't have any monsters in the field anymore in theory. And then you can use its effects from the graveyard to special summon one from the deck. So it's a super useful card. You really want to try and get this out all the time. And in fact, we're running 3 copies of Sangan to make sure we get the Time Maiden, as well as things like 1-for-1, 1 Day of Peace. The deck could use a bit more draw potential, but otherwise, yeah, really just try and get those Time Maidens into your hand as quickly as possible. Cyberstein is in here as the summoning route for the Last Warrior of Another Planet. I like the kind of Cyberman element. Cyberman comes on, it's invading. Oh no, what's going to happen to the Earth? And then all of a sudden, you've lost 5,000 Earth points. And then the Doctor Who appears. It eliminates the Cybermen. It eliminates all the other creatures. And it's there wandering around Gallifrey by itself. So, who is locked in Gallifrey? Well, the key, I think the best Time Lord is Michigan, halves your opponent's life points, and really this plays like a burn deck if you go for the Time Lord route. It plays very much like burn. So you've got this, which after battle halves the life points. Lazian inflicts 1,000 points of damage. Meta Iron inflicts a tiny bit of damage and bounces a load of cards back. Hallion is a healing one, so if your opponent's life points are higher, you can gain the life points back. Same with Sadian. And Rathian is able to target your opponent's maybe boss monster and inflict damage that way. So really the way of Island that are doing it, and I believe there's another one, yeah, Lazian, 1,000 damage per card. So kind of the way I've operated. Oh, and then Sadian, 2,000 damage. So really, you try and start off with Michian, get in the 4,000 range, and then use Lazian and Sandian to chip away at the remaining life points. The other ones have kind of these other like secondary effects, which is why I've only got them as one copy. So Meta Iron with a bounce, Zaphian destroys your opponent's spell and traps, or actually sends it back to the deck, which can be even more handy. And I think I've gone pretty much through all of them, except for your like mystical magical boss that you're probably never really going to play, Setlian. Often you can even have stall games where you end up just like discarding Timelords, and eventually Setlian will be able to be played. But I mean, its graveyard effect is outrageous, and the 4,000 attack beaters. Actually, that is kind of one of the ones that you can potentially play with Infinite Light. So that's your first target for Infinite Light is the Setlian, because it has that 4,000 attack, and it means their effects are negated, so you're just getting 4,000 beaters, which, you know, is pretty good. And one of the things I didn't say about Infinite Light is that the Time Lord monsters don't go back into the deck, so this is an invasion of Time Lords. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to have a duel to kind of demonstrate how this works in the chat soon. Yeah, there might be a clip up here of it kind of operating in a very simple way of me just bringing out the Doctor immediately. He saves the day before you even need the Time Lords. Yeah, so that is all for the Doctor Who meets the Time Lords deck here on Jolly Scarecrows. Hope you enjoyed watching it, and we'll see you for the next deck video very soon.